What's going on, gearheads? Welcome back to the channel. It's Thursday night. We're over here in the garage just hanging out. Got a couple things to knock out and just wanted to give you a quick little video. Obviously, if you clicked on this link, I'm imagining that you're either getting started into tuning or curious about tuning your own vehicle. So I just wanted to give you a couple tips and tricks that I learned along the way and how I got to be able to not only work on my car but actually make the changes to the computer, be able to tune it. If you do your own engine work and then you also want to be able to do the engine calibration and the tuning on the vehicle also, I'm going to give you a couple tips and tricks I learned along the way and how I was able to kind of get to that point and be able to do this stuff myself. So something I should add just starting this video off is, like, this video is not at all in any which way going to tell you how to tune. This is more just the steps I took to be able to learn how to tune. So I don't think I really plan on doing any type of videos like tuning tutorials or anything like that, because for me personally, like, I only tune my own stuff. I've had guys come in and we do modifications and stuff in their car, and I'm like, you're gonna have to get a dyno tune somewhere else. Like, that's just not something I'm really comfortable taking on at this point. So if you're new to the channel, this is my Cyber Gray C6Z. I've had this thing for a number of years. Bought it bone stock, did all my own work on it, heads, cam, exhaust, intake, all that good stuff. And when I did the build, I wanted to pretty much do everything myself. So not only did I want to do all the mechanical work on the car, I also wanted to be able to tune the car, but I didn't really know anything about the tuning aspect. So I was comfortable doing all the mechanical work. I had the dealer service manuals. I have a lot of experience working on engines, not so much this car or anything specifically, but if you have that kind of background, you got all the tools, you got your hands on a dealer manual, you could pretty much work through any type of problem or any parts that you're gonna swap out or change. That stuff's not that hard, but I was a little intimidated by the tuning aspect in the computer because I knew that if I didn't make the proper changes, I could potentially blow up my, whatever this engine would cost as a crate motor to replace, probably $10,000. So that would be a pretty expensive mistake. So this led me to doing kind of the research on my own and figuring out, okay, how am I going to learn how to tune this vehicle, tune it properly so it's not going to blow up and it's going to be healthy, reliable, and get the kind of power that I'm looking to get out of it. So in my internet research, this was kind of the first thing I came across that was really, really beneficial to my knowledge base and getting a grasp on what is going on in the computer in the car to make these changes and calculations, all that stuff to make the car run properly. So I came across this book here. It's called Engine Management Advanced Tuning. It's written by a guy named Greg Banish, and there's a little bit about the author here. Oh, here it is. About the author. So he's a OEM GM calibrator, or used to be, and then I think he started his own tuning and performance shop. Then he got into writing books, and I think he has some video series out as well as like a manual and actually doing the stuff in the computer. This book basically is where you want to start on your tuning journey and how you want to learn essentially the fundamentals and what's going on inside the engine. So this is really going to review, it's going to go over all the different sensors, so the different things the engine's looking at and how the computer is going to interpret that data and then command certain outputs. So like how much timing to give the car, how much fuel for the duration of the pulse and the timing of the injectors, everything like that. So this book is going to dive into the background on the computers. It's going to give you the basic fundamentals of a 4-cycle engine, all the different air mass calculations, air fuel, what lambda is, and your air fuel ratios, all that type of stuff. And everything is written out in this book, and it's laid out and it's described and written very, very well. And I wouldn't say that this is necessarily written at like a super novice or entry level comprehension or understanding of engines. I mean, for myself, I have a degree in engineering and then a strong background in working on engines ever since I was a little kid. So this stuff really just strengthened my background and my understanding of an automotive engine, a 4-cycle engine, and what the computer is doing. I obviously knew how an engine worked, but I certainly didn't know a lot of the knowledge that was in here about all the different sensors and the inputs and the outputs of the computer doing, everything like that. So that was definitely gave me a really, really, really good background into before you dive into the laptop. So this book is going to give you those good fundamentals and a good understanding of what's going on in the engine, stuff like that. So this is where I would start for sure. Pick this book up, read through this book maybe once, twice, 3 times, whatever you got to do to kind of grasp the concepts and the engineering of what's going on in here. And this is an amazing place to start. He also has another book out, this High Performance Fuel Injection Systems. A lot of this stuff is a little redundant in here, but it is kind of laid out, and there is some more topics discussed in this book that aren't in this book. So I would start with this book first. Then you could get this book second if you feel you want a little more information, a little more data. I also have a couple other books that I would recommend too. They're certainly not as high on the list as this one here, but this was another pretty good written book, this Performance Fuel Injection Systems. You could also read through this. I mean, all the books you kind of can get through are really going to just set yourself up for success. And not that this is necessarily related to tuning, but if you wanted more of a mechanical book on doing builds and modifications, this one's pretty good. It goes through all the different stuff, like, you know, different timing chain setups and different valves and weighing different valves for your heads and cranks, and everything's kind of in here. So if you guys want to check this out for the mechanical side, this is a great book also. And I'll leave links for these all in the description of the video so you can pick these up. They're all just from Amazon, and they're not that expensive. It might be like 15-20 bucks or something like that, so nothing too crazy. So now you're like, okay man, I got the fundamentals, the background, understanding the engine, the computer, and everything like that. Now how do I tune? So that's going to be the next thing you got to kind of figure out is, well, how do you make these changes in the computer to reflect the modifications that you made to the engine? So you change the camshaft out, you change the heads, you put a set of long tube headers on. Now the dynamics in the engine are changing, the air in and out changes. So then that pretty much comes into you getting a laptop and a certain type of software to be able to communicate with the computer, download that stock tune file, make your changes on your keyboard, and then upload that tune file back to the computer so it'll run on those new parameters, new settings that you gave it. So I use HP Tuners, and this is the MPVI-2 interface. This is basically what hooks to your OBD2 port and allows the laptop to communicate with the vehicle. I believe they have a new one out of this too. It might be like the MPVI-2 Plus or something. I got this when it first came out back in 2018. This was brand new. They had the MPVI-1 out previously. This was like their newer one. So I don't know if there's been updates and revisions to that and what it entails, but this is just what I use and have been using the past couple of years, and it's worked great so far. I'm not sure about other software, like if you want to go with EFI Live, or if you're tuning not LS based stuff, but maybe Hondas or anything else. I don't know. There might be better platforms for tuning on, but for LS stuff, I think HP Tuners is kind of the way to go. So now that you purchase your interface, you got the software set up, it's going to come with the Studio Editor, which is actually what you make the file changes on the computer. And then also it comes with a scanner or data logger, which can read all your parameters while the engine's running, and it's going to log it in a little graph and give you all the readouts and everything like that. So that is probably step number one, is getting that set up properly so you can data log the car. So this logger here is going to have everything. I'll give you guys, I don't know how well it's going to come out like recording the computer screen, but it gives you a nice readout of, you got like a little gauge cluster here. You could configure the screen how you want to, but you got a nice little gauge cluster here, and it gives you everything from your map sensor reading, your air intake air temperature, speed, RPM, what your fuel trims are doing, injectors, knock retard would be over here, but everything's going to be kind of in there. Then you get an analog readout of all these parameters. Also, you can change these, and these will spit out graphs, so you could actually trend the data going across. So you'll see here, like this red line, this is my RPM, so you could see it sweep up through here, 5,000, 6,000, or whatever. And then the other lines are all going to be your different graph readouts. Over here is your channels list. That's going to give you all the channels that you're recording data from. So you're pulling from all these different sensors, and it has everything: oil pressure, mass airflow, throttle position, what your O2 sensors are doing, what your injectors are doing. So all that stuff's included in there. And then you also have these graphs over here that are real-time cells So this would be like cylinder air mass versus RPM. And it's going to show you across these different cylinder air mass and RPM what the specifically, this is spark events, so your timing. So you could see here, you know, at 1.12 grams per second, and 5,500 RPM, we're at 22 degrees in timing. And then we go up to 23 degrees of timing. So all that stuff is logged. Now, this is super, super critically important because you want to watch this stuff while the car is running. And you'd also record this, save it, and then play it back later to review what's going on. But this is what you're going to use to make your changes. Just like in here, I have a commanded air fuel ratio of 12.5, and my actual air fuel ratio is 12.6. So we're a slight bit on the lean side. So what I would want to do is like take that data and actually go in and see, okay, at this specific point, you know, right here, I am 2% lean. So 9150 hertz on my mass airflow frequency sensor. I know that I'm 2% lean. So what I would do is go in and to the editor and add 2% fuel right into that cell. And you could actually copy and paste this over into the editor, and it's going to make those changes for you, which is really cool. So now you got your scanner kind of set up. That's going to take some figuring out to do also. I guess I should mention, like, this stuff doesn't come already set up. You got to set these graphs up and all that stuff. You can find videos on YouTube or forums. The HP Tuners has a really good database online where you can look up questions. Their customer service is also really, really good. You just have to send them in that, like, you own a unit, what serial number it is, and then their tech assist is really good. I've used it for problems with formulas, trying to calculate out air fuel ratio error and stuff like that, and they've helped walk me through. You send them screenshots of what you see on your computer. It's really, really good. All right, so now you're working on getting your scanner set up, all that type of stuff. The other piece of hardware that you are going to need that is vitally, vitally important, and you cannot tune without it, is going to be getting yourself a wideband O2 sensor. So that you're going to either temporarily install, like you could use one of the clamps and have it put into the tailpipe, clamp it on, run the wire up through the trunk, and then you just hook it into the laptop when you got to do your tuning, and then you just take it out when you're done, or you can permanently install one. I have one, a welded in bung in my X-pipe, so I'll show you guys quick. I think the car should be open. So this is what I have in my car. It's an AEM wideband, and I have basically a piggyback in the OBD2 port, so it allows me to transfer that signal the wideband is getting, and it spits it out right into my data logger. I will leave you guys a link also in the description below for the wideband that I use. I just got it on Amazon. It's probably around 180 bucks, 160 bucks, something like that. And that's the one that could patch in basically like a piggyback that goes between this plug here and then the car port. And then that's where I'm getting this wideband reading from. So this is the actual AFR that's coming out of the tailpipe, and that's very, very critical in your tuning process. You cannot be doing any type of tuning without being able to properly monitor your air fuel ratios. So then, aside from being able to data log and setting up your data logger, then you're obviously going to need to be able to do your tuning edits in the computer. So the VCM editor is what's going to allow you to access the computer. And you'll see here, like, you got this little green icon that looks like a computer, and this is how you'd load the tune file from the vehicle. So if it's a stock tune file, you just made your modifications, you're going to pull that tune file off the car, and then obviously have like a ton of different tunes for my car as I made changes to different stuff. So these are like all my tune setups that I have and that I was playing around with, and at least to list them in date order so you could see, like, oh, what was the last edit I made, and you always change the name so you can go back to a previous edit if something goes wrong with the new one that you just made. So don't overwrite your tunes. And this has everything, all the parameters that you're able to change in the computer. So it has a general page, it has idle. This is going to be where you set up your idle airflow, your idle RPM you want. Your airflow tables are going to be everything for changing the airflow parameters, like your mass airflow if you're running a MAF tune, your VE tables if you're running a VE tune. This has a virtual volumetric efficiency table, so you can go into here and pull up your VE table if you want to tune with the VE table. I don't have mine set up that way. I've experimented with it and just have decided to run a MAF tune. And all that stuff can be changed. In here you have fuel, spark, I mean everything's in here. Torque modeling, torque management, if you want to adjust your traction control stuff, NOx sensors, all that's in here. You can also do everything with your DCT codes. So if you want to not have them show codes, or you want to turn them off, like say you do a set of headers and you want the secondary O2 sensors shut off because you're not running CATs anymore, you can go in here and do that. And then once you make all your changes, you could save that, and then you write that file onto your car's computer, and that's going to be the new parameters the car runs off of. And basically, like, the logic behind that is you'd upload your changes, you'd run your data logger, check your parameters. Okay, the car is running a little lean at this spot and it's a little rich over here, and I've got a little too much timing here because I'm showing a little bit of knock and I got to pull a little timing out. You'd record all those data, review it, and then go make some changes, upload it again, and you just basically keep practicing at that until you get those errors smaller. Like you have less knock, you have less of a lean spot, less of a rich spot, and you're getting those numbers as close to 0 errors as possible. And then you basically, you're done. And if you got any questions or anything about the stuff I put in the video, I'm gonna leave links for all the products down below. I'll also leave you guys my email address so you could shoot me an email. Maybe if you have an additional question and you're trying to figure out which direction to go, maybe I can help steer you and guide you on that. So as always, stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We'll be coming out with a lot more videos, hopefully be doing weekly updates and showing you guys what we got going on in the garage. If you're interested in some C6Z content, we've got more going on for this. We've actually got a sweet little fast LSX 102 manifold, Nick Williams 102 throttle body, some new injectors going in on this car, so we're going to be doing some performance reviewing on the setup before and the after. So stay tuned, check the new videos out, and we will see you on the next one.